All right, folks, use hashtag Cowboys to have your questions or comments featured on the show. We'll take you now to some Cowboys draft needs here. I'm sure we'll get plenty of comments on this one. I view safety as the #1 need here. Now, I think it's kind of grouped off in terms of these. It's safety, defensive, and defensive tackle at the top 3 for me, then running back on its own tier, and then wide receiver. And then receiver and positions like tight end, offensive line are all long-term depth needs right now. But I think if you're the Cowboys, you can find for those first 4 needs early on a safety, a defensive end, and or a DT, or a running back that makes an instant impact for you in year 1. And I think safety in particular at pick 58, or even in a trade up, is the way to go for the Cowboys. Because I'm very high on this top end of the safety class this season.
Man, I know a bunch of the safeties, but I mean, is there really like one safety that you think is just you're in love with?
I'm super high on Darnell Savage, but he's not my #1 guy. He's my #3 guy, but I think any of this tier of guys, Taylor Rapp, Jonathan Abram, Darnell Savage, and Juan Thornhill, I think one of those guys will be there at pick 58. And I think the Cowboys in particular like Taylor Rapp and they like Jonathan Abram to the point that I wouldn't be stunned if they tried to trade up for one of those 2 guys. I don't know how much I'd like it because I want my 4th and 3rd round picks still because you don't have a 1st round pick this year. But I wouldn't be stunned if they moved up.
Okay, we might see it on a show tomorrow here, youtube.com/ChatSportsTV.
All right, questions coming in from Mike Fernandez, hashtag Cowboys. Do you think that keeping Gregory is a good deal and will it affect the cap if he messes up again? The signing bonus, sure, but that's pretty minimal, so it's not a huge risk, even though there's a little bit of risk there. In terms of risk versus reward, the reward's pretty high. Because if Gregory comes back to the NFL and he stays on the straight and narrow and the NFL makes him the poster boy for we're being better about players that smoke weed, well, then you've got him this year and next year at basically the league minimum for a guy that we just saw last year have 6 sacks. And that was after having been away from football for so long. So I think it was definitely a worthwhile move. There is a little bit of risk there.
Sounds good. Next one coming in from Mealy Williams. That's my middle name. What do we got? So
wait, which part?
Williams.
Your middle name is Williams?
That's close.
That's a last name.
Trade their 1st round pick for DeMarcus Lawrence.
If a team does make a move for DeMarcus Lawrence, I think it would be the Colts.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We said the Colts were going to make all these moves in free agency because all this money they have, and they.
That's not what I had said.
That's what a bunch of people.
Yeah, because they don't pay attention. They don't know that Chris Bauer doesn't invest in free agency. But for DeMarcus Lawrence, there's already the connection there. The Colts defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus, was the Cowboys linebackers coach and their passing game coordinator. They still, I think, have a long-term need for an edge rusher. You bring him in for, even if it's just a 2nd round pick, that's a good move for the Colts. Maybe not so good, though, for the Cowboys. All right, folks, use hashtag Giants now to have your questions or comments featured on the show. We'll move to them. Obviously, quarterback is a big need, Mitch. I still put edge rusher, though, #1 because you've got Lorenzo Carter and Marcus Golden. Those are your guys, and I guess Kareem Martin, too, who's kind of your roaming defensive lineman edge, can even play some linebacker in terms of off-ball.
I mean, if you can't get after the quarterback in today's NFL, you're just not going to be successful. And when you look at the Cowboys, decent quarterback play there with Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, solid quarterback play. The Redskins, maybe if they draft a quarterback, but at the end of the day, I still think like quarterback is their biggest need. You have such a talented offense. Well, you had one with OBJ, but you still have Saquon Barkley, all these talented options, and you still have Eli Manning, who's just not good anymore.
Quarterback's a need for the Giants. If they like someone at 6, they have to take him there. I don't believe it's a good idea to wait and settle for someone like Daniel Jones.
How long are we going to say wait? Giants are going to wait and wait and wait, and I'm done waiting. I'm done watching Eli Manning not be able to get the ball down the field or avoid pressure.
Cody, by the way, agrees. Or disagrees. Says Giants need quarterback more than pass rush. In terms of like this year right now, I actually think they need pass rush more. From a long-term roster building view, they need quarterback more. But they also needed a quarterback more than they needed a back last year, and then they took Saquon Barkley, which we'll see that actually ends up turning out there. They also need some offensive line help too. Tackle.
Was great.
All right, Colonel says, hashtag Giants, do they trade up or not? Dave Gettleman, his general MO, he never trades. Up or down. He just, these are my picks. Which, look, they should have traded down last year. You could have baited the Jets in to give them even just an extra 3rd round pick. You could have tricked them.
Okay.
And said, hey, we're going to take Sam Darnold. Do you want it? You better take it. The Jets would have fallen for it. They would have done it. They didn't. It's not really the Giants' typical.
I don't really trust Dave Gettleman to do anything smart. All right, Zach, what you got for me, homeboy? If Kyler drops to 6, should they take?
Yeah, I think that they should.
I don't think he falls to 6.
I don't think he falls to 6. He's going
1, obviously.
He's
the
going
Cardinals.
Going top 4. And then even if he was there, the way the Giants grade internally hasn't really changed over the past couple years. It's some of the same guys, same philosophies. I don't know if the size of Kyler Murray would ever allow them to do it. I think that'd be too big of a knock in their scale.
Which is disappointing because Kyler Murray's the best quarterback in this year's draft class.
Michael Grant says the Giants might as well trade Barkley.
Why?
Because he's making a joke about the Giants that they're bad. Therefore, they should just trade away Saquon Barkley.
Barkley to the Raiders. Who says no?
I think everyone else except the Raiders say no. All right, use hashtag Eagles now if you want to have your questions or comments featured here on the show. Move to Philadelphia now. They're in an interesting spot. They've been super aggressive in the past, really since they got rid of Chip Kelly, really, in terms of finding ways to pay guys. I love the trade for Jordan Howard, by which we never really discussed on air, I don't think. They bring in Vinny Curry, they bring back Vinny Curry, they bring in Malik Jackson. At the same time, though, obviously they lose Nick Foles, they lose Michael Bennett, they lose Golden Tate. They're not in desperate need at receiver, though. Maybe that's your number 6 need. You lose Jordan Hicks. I'm kind of worried about the linebacker spot. Now, there are some Eagles fans out there that are really good belief in Camu Grugier-Hill, which I don't really buy into. So maybe linebacker there, but also safety. Because you're a little bit older than I think in particular this year for the Eagles. What you might be trying to do is focus less so on, okay, let's find a guy that's going to start for us right now. Let's find a guy that plays a role for us this season, and then becomes a starter in year 2 or year 3 as other older players retire. Guys like Jason Peters, guys like Kelsey, guys like Malcolm Jenkins, and you set yourself up better for the long term with cheap guys to replace players once they eventually walk away. So,
Butt's asking something that I got on my mind. Were they going to draft a corner in the first?
I will be stunned if Philadelphia goes corner in round 1. And it's not because I don't think it's a need, but because for every NFL team, you have to value what you've already invested into your roster. You can't just keep throwing picks at the same position because the other ones are going to start to suck. So you brought back Ronald Darby. You spent somewhat early picks on Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas. You still have Jalen Mills. You have Avonte Maddox, who I like quite a bit. There's your cornerback core already for this year. Now, maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe you take someone early in 2020. But I think for 2019, it doesn't quite make as much sense.
All right. Mealy, we're bringing you back, my man. Ooh. Whew, what's more likely, Super Bowl champs or number 1 overall pick?
If it's an either or,
I was going to say, I'm going to probably go with the Super Bowl champs.
Give me the number 1 overall pick.
You think the Eagles have a better chance of having the number 1 overall pick than winning a Super Bowl?
Carson Wentz gets hurt again.
They just won the Super Bowl without Carson Wentz.
Nick Foles ain't there anymore. You got Nate Sudfeld now.
Oh, he's amazing.
There's your answer. So I think it's more likely for number 1 in terms of relative to like draft order. They're going to be closer to the Super Bowl champs.
Maybe they trade up to the number 1. Who knows? All right.
See, there you go. Boom. Figured it out.
Use hashtag Redskins to have your question now about all Washington Redskins.
I have hammered this point home for years now, and the Redskins continue to ignore me, much like the Giants in terms of drafting linebackers. Go get another offensive guard. You've got a fantastic one in Brandon Schreff, and then you went through literally like 8 different guys last year across from him. You tried Ari Coandro, you tried Tony Bergstrom and Luke Blanco and Zach Karen and Kyle Fuller and Austin Howard and Sean Luavo and Jonathan Cooper. All those guys played guard for you last year, and all of them sucked. Go invest in a guard this year and help protect whoever you have at quarterback, be it Colt McCoy, be it Case Keenum, maybe more likely a draft pick as well. Because the thing that's really curious to me is how the Redskins approach this offseason, because if they finish with 7 wins or 6 wins again, I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Snyder reverts back to being Dan Snyder and decides, you know what, I'm going to fire Jay Gruden. That's what I could see happening.
But see, I feel actually kind of bad for the Redskins as a team. You go out, you get Alex Smith, leg turns into a slinky, and you just have all these other things that just happen to him And this is one team I feel like that you go out and get Landon Collins, which I like that move.
Helps at safety. They still could use maybe one more guy, but you're in
But I don't
better
trust
shape.
Colt McCoy. I don't trust Case Keenum, and I think at the end of the day, they need a quarterback.
All right, speaking of quarterbacks here, King Keith, there was a report late yesterday that the Skins are still interested in Josh Rosen. Do you buy that the Redskins could be this dumb? This isn't dumb by the Redskins if they want Josh Rosen.
This is buying low. This is being smart.
It's quite the opposite, actually. Like, yeah, Rosen was bad in year one. Look at what the Cardinals had around him. We'll get to that later on. And oh, by the way, he was better than Jared Goff was after his first year.
That's the thing. Like, just because you're bad as a rookie doesn't mean anything. Sure, the Cardinals had a horrible offense, dead last in the NFL,
with a third-string offensive line by the end of the year.
It's a team sport, guys. Come on.
Right. Steel hardwood. Would the Redskins draft a quarterback this year or in 2020? This is a dangerous game to play, and I know we've kind of mentioned it. You mentioned it. You kind of alluded to it with the Giants. The waiting till next year doesn't always pan out. Of course, we can mention Tua, we can mention Jake Fromm, we can mention Justin Herbert, some other quarterbacks like Jacob Eason. But all it takes is one of those guys to get hurt again. If Tua has another knee injury, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Or if he regresses, all of a sudden, maybe you don't want a quarterback next year. And if you wait instead of taking a guy you like this year, you're in really bad shape for your franchise.
Well, and I think they're in this position because Alex Smith got hurt. So, Sam, this is a good question. Do you think Alex Smith takes another NFL snap? I'm going to type my N for no.
I don't think so. And I hate to say that, but I have a tough time seeing Alex Smith come back in the near future there.
Salty Savage, great name. Do they trade up for Drew Lock? Hopefully they do before John Elway gets any ideas.
I could see the Redskins making a splash and moving up for a quarterback. And
I could too.
Teams like the Jets, the Bucks in particular, really want to move down. That's not even that's a secret. It's a very poor kept secret right now. Both those teams want to trade down, maybe not for Drew Lock, maybe instead it's Dwayne Haskins instead.